Hello, you are watching West Bloomfield 911. I am Officer Rick, and on behalf of Chief Michael Patton and the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, once again, welcome to the show. Before we go to our corner spotlight, I'd like to introduce our guest, Mr. Klint Kesto. How are you, sir?
Good morning.
You are the representative from the 39th District in the State House of Representatives.
I am. It's a great experience serving the community, serving the public.
We're glad to have you here. Now we're going to do something we call the Corner Spotlight. Highlights one of our employees, so don't run away on me, okay?
All right, I'll be right here.
All right, folks, we're going to highlight today one of my favorite guys, Joshua Corticus. Josh is a dispatcher, and he said the only way he would agree to do this is if I introduced him as Dispatcher Extraordinaire. So, Dispatcher Extraordinaire Josh Corticus. Josh has been with us for 14 years. He has served all that time in dispatch, and he does a great job. But Josh is certainly a man of service, and he has worked as a reserve public safety officer for the city of Farmington in their Department of Public Safety. So Josh, we thank you for all your service in the Southeast Michigan area. When I asked Josh, what his favorite food was, he said it was Mexican. And I do like Mexican as well, so one day we're gonna have to do lunch together, Josh. I like mine real hot, I hope you do as well. And his favorite book, he said, is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Now, Josh, I'm probably going to go before you. I'm much older than you are, and I hope I'm one of the 5 you meet. And his favorite movie, Backdraft, a 1991 movie starring Kurt Russell and Robert De Niro. And I thought that was a good movie as well. And that was directed by Opie, Ron Howard. I'm sorry, Paul. Well, he's not Little Opie anymore, but that was a good flick. And his favorite music, country western, or is common among some people in the music industry. Country and western is sometimes called the white man's blues. So I like country western as well. When talking about accomplishments and hobbies, to show you how dedicated he is, he said he loves working, and he loves especially making sure that the SOR and the lean are up to snuff. And for those of you not familiar with law enforcement, the SOR is the Sex Offender Registry, which is very important to all of us, as well as the LEAN, the Law Enforcement Information Network. He's that kind of employee, dedicated to his duty. And I like doing this because you get to learn about your fellow employee, and I never knew that he liked to wrench on vehicles. Josh said he also likes to work on his Jeep. So Josh, thanks for all you do. And as all good law enforcement people are, he's close to his mom. And when I asked him for a quote, he said, I'm going to quote Mom. She said, work hard and good things happen. Josh, your mom is absolutely right. Josh, we're going to turn the corner spotlight off. Thanks for everything you do, and I'll see you back at the barn. And folks, right now, we're not going to look at a dumb criminal, but we're going to give you a tip of the day, a safety tip. And the safety tip I want to give you today is gun safety. Now, I have this little thing here, and for those of you who may be wondering why I have this is a toy, so relax. But I just want to illustrate that even though you may be able to tell this is a toy, kids cannot always do that. And unfortunately, sometimes people are taking real guns, making them to appear to be as toys. This one has the orange spot on it. But sometimes bad guys are taking real guns, making them look like toys by doing that, putting the orange tip. And some people are taking toy guns and making them look real for reasons unknown to me. So if you have guns, which are legal, please keep them locked up and safe so some kid doesn't grab one accidentally and hurt themselves or hurt someone else. And for those of you who are West Bloomfield residents, come on down to the police station. If you don't have a gun safe or a gun lock, show us that you're a West Bloomfield resident. We'll be glad to give you one of these to secure your weapon. Believe me, we do not want to go to anyone's house and find anybody hurt by a gun that got to the wrong hands. So enjoy your rights as gun owners, but please be safe and responsible. Don't go away. We'll come right back with State Representative Klint Kesto.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
The Michigan House of Representatives introduce and vote on thousands of laws each year. Klint Kesto serves the 39th District of the Michigan House of Representatives, which includes Commerce, Wixom, Wolverine Lake, and West Bloomfield Township. To contact Representative Kesto about an issue you have, call him at 517-373-1799 or email at klintkesto@house.mi.gov. Or for more information on the Michigan House of Representatives, visit house.michigan.gov.
Hello, we are back. And once again, I would like to introduce to you State Representative Klint Kesto from the 39th District. Klint, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. You know, I don't remember exactly how we met, but you have been a big supporter of the police department. I know we saw you out at the unveiling of the road being renamed in honor of Sergeant Patrick O'Rourke. And so you've been a big supporter of the police department.
Absolutely. The work you do to keep the community safe is tremendous. I was a former prosecutor in Wayne County, so I understand all the hard work and effort that you're putting in to make sure the community is safe, that people feel comfortable in the area. So I appreciate it, and I think everyone does.
Well, being a prosecutor, I knew there was a reason I liked you. So, but we're glad you're on the show. And I was going through your bio. You were on 39th District, but that mostly entails in West Bloomfield, at least the west side of our township. But what else does it cover?
It's the west side of the township, probably around 56% of the township, but the western part of it, I have Commerce Township, Village of Wolverine Lake, and Wixom.
Okay.
So about 90,000 residents total.
Now, what made you decide to get into politics? Because I see that we were talking off camera. You grew up in Southfield, and went to the University of Michigan. And you know, I'm not allowed to root for U of M anymore. My daughter's now going to Michigan State, so she said, "Dad, we don't root for U of M anymore." I said, "Well, can I at least root for them when you're not around?"
Yeah,
so,
right.
But you went to U of M and then went to Wayne State Law School.
I did, and after I graduated from Wayne State Law School, started at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. I was there about 6 years, and sometime last year, I wanted to make a difference in the state. I saw where our state is going in the right direction, and wanted to be able to serve the community in a different capacity, and so ran for office, and been doing everything I can, getting information back to the community, holding town halls on various issues, passing bills, especially on public safety, based on the community committees I sit on, two of which are judiciary and criminal justice, and trying to make Michigan a better place, keep our Michigan families here.
Well, now, if you don't mind me asking as an aside, I know that the mayor-elect of Detroit, Mike Duggan, was also in Wayne County. Well, he was the chief prosecutor. Did you work with Mike down there, or were you guys at different times down there?
We were at different times. I came in shortly after he had left.
Okay, all right. Well, now, tell us what is kind of going on in the State House that is important for us here at home.
Well, the first thing that's real important is that we passed the budget in early June. That makes a great difference to the state, because now as we appropriate funds, municipalities, schools, townships, various departments are able to know what they're going to do in the future and be able to plan and have their own budgets. And I think that that's tremendous, as you see what's been going on in Washington with the delay in the budget being passed. But here in Michigan, we're doing it right, and we had it passed in June. We see more residents that are staying, more families that are staying in Michigan.
That's good to hear.
Jobs we've had an increase in over 250,000 jobs in our state. We have a rainy day fund of over $580 million now. And this is tremendous because the credit rating of the state is increasing. People are confident in coming to our state, investing, creating jobs, communities are growing, families are staying, and that's great for the community, and it affects West Bloomfield Township just the same.
Absolutely. Now, have you guys in Lansing sent a letter to the folks in Washington and said, come on over here and see how we're doing it so you can get your house in order?
Well, you know, you look at what the governor's been saying and what the people in the legislators have been saying is that, Washington, come, we're a perfect example.
Yeah.
Come look at what we're doing, how we're spending, how we're saving, and how we're getting the job done. And part of it obviously is tongue-in-cheek, but it's actually true. We're doing a great job here in Michigan.
Well, now let me ask you, one of the things we had talked about briefly off camera that is something you are concerned with and are pushing is the new slavery. And people think that slavery was outlawed, but in a sense it hasn't been. What's going on with slavery in the United States? People think, we don't have slavery. Well, in a sense, we do.
We absolutely do. And what it is human trafficking. And there are various forms of human trafficking, and we think that it doesn't happen here in West Bloomfield Township or maybe in suburban areas. But it's prevalent, it's out there, and it's the second largest criminal activity aside from drug trafficking. And human trafficking extends to labor, extends to sex trade. Mm-hmm. And now it's even transforming where it's in the cyber world, on the internet, on various websites. We just recently saw a huge bust off of Craigslist. The FBI task force did a tremendous job. And like I said, we don't think it happens here in our own backyard, mm-hmm. but it's out there. And there was a book, a young woman at the time, Teresa Flores, and she lived in Birmingham and fell into this trap of sex trafficking and human slavery. Mm-hmm. And we just had a town hall, November 19th, had a great turnout. And just to make people aware of what's going on, mm-hmm. how can you identify this? How can you see if it's going on in your neighborhood or with various people that you interact with?
Right.
And we need to keep our family safe. We need to keep our children safe, and they're the most vulnerable to these predators, to these creeps,
yep.
to these thugs.
Right.
And in the legislature, we're going to be having a series of bills and legislation to address mainly 3 topics. One, these individuals that fall into this trap are victims, and we mm-hmm. need to treat them as such. And we need to get them the help and support to not only get them out of this trafficking, but also transition them back into ordinary life. 2, we need to increase the penalties on not only the people purchasing sex or purchasing this slavery, the Johns or what have you, but also those selling them.
Right.
And the predators.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing that I think is important is because this is a multi-billion dollar industry, right. seizing the assets of these predators so that they know that we mean business, especially here in Michigan, where we're so close to the Canadian border.
Right.
We have highways that are coming through, 94 and 96 and 75, and we have a major city, that being Detroit.
Yep. Well, now let me ask you a question regarding human trafficking. Kind of the one that people focus on, at least on the surface, is the sex trade. But yet it even goes much deeper. There are people in the world who are in such destitute means and are so poor and uneducated that oftentimes they are selling their children, not realizing they're doing it, to be in servitude for the rest of their lives. And we have that here in the United States as well, where people of means are buying those kids. Now, that's a part of it a lot of people don't even think about.
You're absolutely right. And that's really, we need to take the next step as a community, to be the eyes and ears out there for law enforcement because resources are limited. But also, we have that responsibility as a community,
sure,
to protect the children, to protect the vulnerable. And they're being sold not just for, like I said, for sex trade, but also for labor.
Right.
And you get individuals who prey on these vulnerable, take them and use them for in agriculture, at various salons, mm-hmm. Various retail outlets. Domestic help.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because they're not self-identifying when they are victims.
Right, right.
You don't get their name all the time. Maybe they don't have certain paperwork if they're immigrants, or they're being withheld by the trafficker.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to take an active approach, to take a strong approach mm-hmm. to what's going on.
Well, let's look at some other things that are going on in the State House as well. Even though that's certainly a very important topic, one that most people probably feel is a little closer to home is Michigan's still in a financial funk. We're getting better. Things are improving, but maybe not as fast as some of us would like. What's going on as far as what are the folks in Lansing and the representatives and the governor? What are we doing to encourage businesses to come back to Michigan? I know you said that is happening, but what are some of those programs you have going?
Well, I also sit on regulatory reform, and we're trying to change the regulatory structure so that Michigan is an attractive place.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the Midwest, and we're surrounded by various other states that have different regulations that are business friendly, and we're trying to be competitive with that. Also, through the MEDC, we're creating grant programs.
Now, why don't you tell the folks what that is?
The Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And we have grant programs to get innovative ideas or innovative businesses or those willing to invest in Michigan an opportunity to come here, make Michigan an attractive place. But I will tell you this, our property values are going up. I know in West Bloomfield Commerce and the district I represent, we're up about 5 to 7%. So we're definitely in the right direction.
Right.
Unfortunately, like you said, we were in such a disaster.
Sure.
We were in a depression more than anywhere else
Yes.
in the country. So it is tough to get out, but we're balancing a budget. Our credit rating is better. We're creating a regulatory climate that's attractive and competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the proof. Storefronts, rather than being vacant, are now coming back. Plazas are filling up. People are staying in Michigan. They're excited. They're buying properties and homes, and families are staying. So we're in the right direction.
Now, economic development certainly is important, and that is tied in very closely to the crime rate and criminal justice. And here in West Bloomfield, we're very fortunate. I think it was this past year, I think it was Money Magazine put West Bloomfield in the top 40 or top 50, whatever it was, communities to live in of this size throughout the country. That's quite a nice feather in our cap. But when people come to Southeast Michigan, they're not just looking at West Bloomfield, and sometimes they may see what's going on in other communities, and that may play a part in allowing maybe them thinking, well, do I really want to go there? Crime is too high, or it just has a bad rap. Even if the crime isn't as high here as somewhere else, the image isn't good. What is going on in, as far as criminal justice? What are we doing to make it harder on the criminal and easier on police and legislatures to take advantage of those things so we can put those guys behind bars?
Well, we're taking an active approach, and certainly the communities that you mentioned, West Bloomfield, and the communities that I represent, Commerce, West Bloomfield, Wixom. What are people looking at when they come? And you said it, crime, schools, jobs.
Right.
We're doing well on the jobs part. Our schools in the area I represent, Wall Lake and West Bloomfield, are some of the top in the country.
Right.
And on the crime end, we have wonderful police departments, and the sheriff is taking, in partnership with the sheriff. But what about the surrounding communities? Because that plays a part as well. One issue that I put together and we passed out of the House is the scrapping industry, where you have these people going out and ripping apart houses and businesses, taking air conditioner units, taking out copper, and they're destroying communities. We just passed a bill that allows not only the police departments to be involved, but it also puts a partnership between the private sector, the recycling facilities and whatnot, and the commercial recyclers, to also be the eyes and ears with the police department. And I think that that's the real key, is how do we get the private sector involved as a partnership? Resources are limited, bodies are limited for the police department to go out and investigate. There are serious crimes out there, shootings and murders and robberies. But we have to make a difference in terms of who's destroying these communities on an economic basis.
Right, absolutely.
And we're working on those issues.
Now, for us living in Southeast Michigan, obviously what goes on in Detroit is also, I think, very important to us, because when we go somewhere and someone says, where do you live? Well, if I say West Bloomfield, they may not have any idea where that is. Generally, people say I live in Detroit. Now, they just recently elected a new mayor who will be taking office at the beginning of the year. What is, how does it look from a state level working with Mr. Duggan to improve the region as a whole? And I know he's already been out to Lansing a couple times trying to make friends and get a good working relationship going.
He has, and I think that's the key, that proactive initiative by Mike Duggan. And I think that's what sets the foundation, is that relationship, that willingness to work with other areas, working with Lansing, working with the city of Detroit. I was just at the DIA, Detroit Institute of Arts. We have amazing treasures in Detroit, and they're for all of us, not just the residents of Detroit, but all of Southeast Michigan, the whole state of Michigan, and everywhere else. This level of tourism coming in. And we see a different tune, I think, now with a new mayor in Detroit, this different aura. I think we're going to get a lot more investment coming in.
Good.
This partnership between the mayor and Lansing is going to be, I think, tremendous. He's already reached out with Kevin Orr, and Kevin Orr, the emergency manager, now has a willingness to say, okay, put forth a plan of what you want to do, and we're there to work with you.
Oh, that's good.
So I think good things are to come in Detroit. We have investors going in, cleaning up the area. Mike Duggan was a turnaround guy at the DMC. I think he, at the prosecutor's office, when he was the prosecutor, he was taking care of blight. And I think that's going to come back, that getting rid of blight, that turnaround of the city, the investment coming in, willingness to work with other individuals is going to be a turnaround to allow all of us to appreciate this great city, this historical city of Detroit.
Right. Well, and we certainly are a region that's tied together.
Absolutely.
And I think we found that out when the state went, had its depression, that just because this is a nice area and it's more affluent than some of the other areas, we were affected by that depression as well. So I think that was a learning lesson for all of us, that we're tied together.
You're right.
Now, the state now is looking at getting regional transportation with the train, and I saw one of the new buses for SMART the other day. What is going on as far as regional transportation, if you can touch on that for a little bit?
Well, we have the RTA Regional Transportation Authority, and we're working on implementing that in Southeast Michigan. But I think when we're looking at what we're doing to bring people back, there's this urban revitalization. Young people want to live in an urban setting, have mass transportation, similar to Chicago and New York and Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles, where you're able to hop on some mode of transportation, get where you need to go, and come back. So I think we need to make sure that we put the right processes in place. We implement this transportation authority properly, and that'll, rather than having a brain drain that we're having, we have wonderful talent that leaves for these large cities. This will be a draw. I think transportation is one aspect. This urban city, urban feel is another aspect to bring the young people here and to stay here.
Well, now we got about 30 seconds to go, Klint. Is there something you'd like to tell your constituents real quickly?
Stay tuned. We have a great city. We have a great district. I'm there available to work with you. Feel free to call me, 517-373-1799. You can look me up, and I'm willing to bring whatever's going on in Lansing, all the information down to the district, and I'm there to take whatever we have in the district back to Lansing as well. So I look forward to serving.
All right, beautiful. Give that phone number one more time.
517-373-1799.
All right, beautiful. Stick around. We want to memorialize an officer who was killed in the line of duty. Folks, if you would, please remember in your thoughts and in your prayers, Railroad Detective Frank J. Cook of the Michigan Central Railroad Police Department. That railroad is no longer in existence, though some of the modern railroads came out of there, and most people don't even know that railroad police exist, but they play a very integral role in public safety. Railroad Detective Frank J. Cook was killed in the line of duty on August 11th, 1911, over 100 years ago. And what made it even worse, he was killed by friendly fire. Railroad Detective Cook and his partner went out to the area of Junction and Michigan Avenue in Detroit, and I'm very familiar with it as an ex-railroad cop, and they were going to meet a friend, and they had made a habit of going out to that area to meet. The three officers knew each other well. On this night, Officer Cook and his partner went out there knowing that the third officer and other officers were looking for some railroad thieves in the area. As they went out there, they walked around a boxcar to meet with the third officer who belonged to a totally different railroad agency. He was taken by surprise. He didn't recognize his friends. He opened fire on both of them, fatally striking both. So Railroad Detective Frank Cook and his partner were killed by friendly fire. The other officer, still not realizing who he shot, met with the Detroit officer and told them that he had killed 2 robbers in the area. That railroad officer and the Detroit policeman went back, realized what they had found. The third officer who did the shooting collapsed, knowing he had shot 2 of his best friends. Ironically, he was arrested by the officer and was later released following a coroner's hearing. So it's bad enough that we face danger, but this is one of the things that we do not want to realize. Even worse than being killed in line of duty is being killed by your own in an accidental fashion, and that's what happened to this great American hero. So if you would please remember Railroad Detective Frank J. Cook of the Michigan Central Railroad Police Department. We're sorry, brother, it took so long to recognize your heroics that were lost in the fog of history, but I promise you from this day forward, you will not be forgotten. Folks, I would also like to thank our special guest, State Representative Klint Kesto from the 39th District.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming on the show. Folks, thank you for watching West Bloomfield 911. Without you, we would have no reason to be here. So remember, take care of yourselves, be safe. Tomorrow's promised to no one. And if you can't catch us on the telly, go to the internet at civiccentertv.com, and I hope to see you again on West Bloomfield 911.